Hello aviators, Sky here, and today we will get acquainted with another, this time Russian plane, which for many years has caused a lot of controversy in its homeland. A bunch of questions and super disputes. Today we will meet the Sukhoi Superjet 100. So, Superjet 100, also known as RRJ or SSJ 100, is a regional jet airliner developed by Sukhoi Civil Aircraft in the 2000s. By the beginning of the 21st century, most of the medium-haul and regional flights in Russia were made by the Tupolev 134 and 154, as well as the Yakovlev Yak-42 airliners. All these models were of course good, but they were old, morally obsolete and could not compete with modern foreign planes, which in fact have captured almost the entire transportation market. In the year 2000, the Sukhoi company, known worldwide for its Su combat aircraft brand, decided to start the project of a civilian jet. But in order not to mix brands, it was decided to create a subsidiary company. That's how the Sukhoi Civil Aircraft Company, or SCAC, appeared. In 2003, the Russian Aerospace Corporation, Rosaviakosmos, started a competition for the creation of, suddenly, a regional jet plane, in which the offspring of SCAC, the RRJ airliner, won. Here the first question often arises. In Russia, there are several companies that are well known in aviation and have experience in building civilian aircraft. Yakovlev, Ilyushin, Tupolev. Why was the creation of a new airliner entrusted to a military company? It's worth considering the state of aviation industry in Russia at the beginning of the 21st century. It was terrible. Collapse of the USSR, collapse of the economy, loss of funding. Civilian aviation suffered severe losses, and many companies were in bad shape, losing personnel and not developing. Sukhoi, which was actively developing, manufacturing and supplying its jet fighters all over the world, was one of the largest military suppliers, so it was in excellent condition and could complete the task. Besides, no point in hiding it, being such a powerful supplier, they probably have a strong lobby in the industry and in the government. Work on the aircraft was going fairly quick. Already in 2007, just 4 years after winning the tender, the first prototype was delivered to the Flight Research Center in the city of Zhukovsky, near Moscow, for testing. The work was also accelerated due to wide cooperation with the industry leaders, mainly French and Italian companies. Soon, another prototype took part in a rollout presentation in its small homeland in the Komsomolsk-on-Amur, on the Russia's far east near the coast of the Pacific. In 2008, the SSJ 100 made its maiden flight. By then, the first contracts were already made. It was planned that in 2010, the aircraft will begin to arrive in the parks of launch customers, the Armenian Armavia and the Russian Aeroflot. However, this plan could not be implemented due to difficulties with certification and delays in production. By the way, about certification. In 2012, the SSJ 100 received the IAC and EASA certificates. In general, Superjet became the first Russian aircraft to receive a modern European certification. So what? The fact is that this piece of paper is extremely important for the export of airplanes. Most countries of the world require it or documents close to it, and without them, aircraft sales on the international market are almost impossible, no matter how cool the aircraft is. This concerns basically any commercial aircraft from any manufacturer. Over the next few years, the SCAC continued active flight tests to expand the capabilities of the aircraft and obtain permits. High and low temperatures, high ground airports, automatic landings, and so on. Also, they certified a long-range SSJ 100 LR version. The SSJ 100 has a classic modern airliner design, with a low wing and jet engine suspended on pylons. The plane doesn't have a lot of fashionable nowadays composite materials, which is certainly not cool, but justified. When the plane was being created, composites were too risky to apply, and the aluminum structures are easier to maintain. For a regional plane, it is important. The airliner has a modern glass cockpit, developed by the Russian companies in collaboration with the French Thales Group. The interface includes 5 multifunctional displays. Since Thales is the main supplier of both SCAC and Airbus, the cockpits are quite similar. Also, the SSJ 100 is controlled by the side sticks, not the yokes. The passenger cabin is the most spacious in the class of regional jet airliners. Due to the enlarged fuselage, The cabin has a width of 324 cm or 10.6 feet against 274 cm or 9 feet of the Embraer 190, which is quite a lot. Therefore, the Superjet cabin is often compared to the Boeing 737 and Airbus A320. The guy is a step higher. Power plant: 2 SaM146 turbofan engines, developed by the Russian Saturn and the French Decenmer companies. Decenmer is in charge of the core engine, control systems and transmissions. Saturn is responsible for the components in the low-pressure section and engine installation. The engines were developed specifically as part of the Superjet program and are quite effective, creating thrust up to 79 kN on takeoff mode. Auxiliary power unit is the Honeywell RE220 turbine generator, integrated into the tail section of the aircraft. The wing has a classic for modern plane structure, with engines on pylons and advanced mechanization. Previously, there was often a question of why were there no winglets on it. But now this issue has been resolved. For the SSJ-100, new wingtips have been developed, the saberlets, offered as an option for the new and already created airliners. The aircraft has two main modifications: the SSJ-100, which is called Basic, designed to accommodate up to 98 passengers, and the SSJ-100LR, with the same capacity, but with flight range increased by 1500 km or approximately 800 miles. Also, on the basis of the LR airliner, the Sukhoi Business Jet or SBJ modifications are created, as well as other small and large modifications are being developed for markets occupied by Embraer E-Jet and Airbus A220, the former Bombardier C-Series airliners. And now two controversial issues. I will say that many complaints about the aircraft are justified, but there are also some that are undeserved. Claim number 1, which is very popular now due to the sanctions and trade wars. There are too much foreign elements and systems applied in the Superjet. I agree with the first part. There's a lot of systems from other countries in it, but this does not mean that the plane is not Russian. In this case, we would have to admit that Boeing is not American, Airbus is not European, and actually this claim can be used for any airliner in the world. International cooperation in the modern aviation industry is a normal thing. Superjet is a commercial aircraft, which means such a competition that you are either the best or nobody needs you. It could have been made only from Russian parts, but then it would be inferior to its competitors and moreover would require a lot of time for certification, and this is critical for export. Now, various solutions are being considered to localize the production of some of the foreign systems, as well as the production of their own. This applies to elements of the airframe, onboard control systems, the cabin, and of course engines. It is assumed that in addition to the SaM146, there will be an option to outfit future modifications of the aircraft with the PD-10 engine, a smaller version of the PD-14, currently developed for the MC-21 airliner. The second complaint: the engines are suspended very low. People are afraid that the engines will be sucking in all the garbage from the airfield and constantly breaking down. But first of all, the guys from Sukhoi are not idiots. Yes, the engines are low, but they are placed in a way that the debris does not fall into them. This is a normal practice in aviation, and it is used on many aircraft. Secondly, the airfield is not a bachelor apartment. Would you kindly keep it in a proper condition? The third claim: childhood diseases, troubles of the brand new aircraft. Problems with mechanization, defects in parts, failures of auxiliary systems. That's a classic issue for any machine. After all, this is the first new aircraft in a couple of decades. Unfortunately, many problems are taking too long to solve, which harms the image of the aircraft. The fourth: low reliability. Indeed, this is a problem, but it concerns not as much the aircraft itself as its maintenance, and this is a real issue for the SCAG. Repair teams, maintenance centers, the lack of the spare parts, the result of undeveloped after-sales service network. Unfortunately, this applies to any product of new, small manufacturers, and they just have to cope. However, despite many minor difficulties with the onboard systems of the aircraft, there were no accidents on the SSJ-100 that could lead to a disaster. At most, the planes had to land for inspection and repair. But one disaster still happened to the airliner. In 2012, during a demonstration flight for potential customers in Indonesia, the plane collided with a mountain. It turned out that during the show it was flying on a low altitude, the crew ignored the warnings of the onboard systems, entered the clouds and were unable to maneuver. But again, it was a pilot error. In fact, we have the first new and quite decent aircraft in many years. More than 170 aircraft that, with great difficulty, but trying to compete in the market. By 2019, the SCAC produces about 25-27 airliners annually and supplies them to both Russian and foreign airlines. Now, a new wave has come to the regional air transportation industry. The emergence of such aircraft as the A220 and Embraer E-Jet E2 is a serious challenge for the SSJ-100. However, it is a challenge that the aircraft can respond to, with some aspiration from the Russian aviation industry, of course. So, I hope that the aircraft will develop further, carry people around the world and always touch the ground only with its wheels and only softly. And from you guys, I'm waiting for likes and comments if you agree, and well, dislikes and disapproval if you don't. And as always, fast flights and soft landings to you.